Hi everyone, welcome. My name's Thomson and I run engineering here at Fastly. I will not keep you too long because I realize we're running a little behind and everyone is very keen to get to the coffee. Like our CEO, I also am a big fan of coffee. But today I'm here to talk to you about the Fastly engine. So Simon already talked to you about the Fastly platform and all the highlights of our roadmap. All of the tech that powers that comes from the Fastly engine. That is the power behind everything we do. It's the secret sauce that allows us to innovate. So I'm going to let you in on a few little secrets. You might be wondering what I'm talking about when I say the Fastly engine. There's this concept that people have been asking me to talk about, which is the durable innovation engine. And this is something that I talked about at our Investor Day. And when the comms team said, can you come to altitude and talk about the durable innovation engine, I said, no, I'm never going to talk about that again. And the reason for that is that you may have noticed that I have an accent. And when I talked about it, what people thought I was saying was the gerbil innovation engine. And I'm really sorry to disappoint you by telling you that we have yet to invent the technology that will allow us to run gerbils at the edge. But instead, I was convinced, and I will talk about the durable innovation engine. I have to say it really slowly, and that is hard for me. So what is that? It is basically a repeatable approach, like a thing that we can do over and over that allows us to build innovative products that incorporates our programmable edge platform that you've heard a lot about today. But when I talk about the Fastly engine, I'm not just talking about the durable innovation engine that is kind of baked into this, but it's also our architecture and our way of thinking about the network that makes us special. So, when I talk about the Fastly engine, I'm talking about all of the things that allow us to go fastly. Sorry. But it's a platform and a set of tools that make it easier and faster for us to build new products. So we build always on top of our own scalable edge infrastructure with all of the resilience and operational rigor that that provides. We also now build on a core set of platform services, which you think of as a kind of a set of Legos, a set of SDKs that mean when developers set out to build a new product with Fastly, they don't have to reinvent, authentication or, UI components or logging or billing. They can just focus on making a really good product for you all. So core to making that engine work is the architectural philosophy that we have at Fastly. And this is actually not something we've ever talked about in public before. There might have been a blog post about it, but I've never given a talk about it. But we have these core architectural principles, and I feel like they're a little bit magical. And I think most of the people here are engineers, so hopefully this is kind of fun to hear about. The key to the general architectural philosophy is that software should control everything between you and your customer, right? So between you all here and your end users, to give them the best possible user experience. That means having a fully software-defined network. It means having good traffic management. And to do all of these things, we've sort of retconned, I guess, a series of 8 architectural principles based on what we were already doing, based on what came from the mind of the founders, so that we could kind of transmit that DNA of how to build a Fastly system to, new engineers as we grow. Tyler told you that only Fastly can do the things that Fastly does, and this is kind of the secret as to why. So, 8 principles. Availability is more important than everything. So all of you depend on our platform 24/7 to give users the best experience. And having 100% availability is impossible. We like to strive for that, but we all know how hard that is and how much every extra 9 costs you all. But resilience is not. And so we try to build systems that are highly available and resilient, right? So when I say resilient, I mean you maximize your availability by reducing the impact of failures, by prioritizing resilience over other properties, right? It has to be the most important thing. If we break, we should degrade gracefully, and we should isolate failures as a very last resort. But this is kind of the core of our fail-D technology, which we've talked about a little bit in the past and will in future. Second principle, this is like classic computer science, 0, 1, infinity. So this says you must avoid any technical assumptions that say X doesn't need to scale, or we'll only ever need 640K of RAM, or whatever it is, right? Those hard limitations are just borrowing trouble against the future. It's a bad idea. So we avoid bottlenecks. We try to build things that scale as they are used. And part of the way that we do this is by having sort of homogeneous deployment of software across the network, which is one of the other principles I'll talk about in a moment. Safety before features. So every engineer knows that the whole of engineering is really making a series of trade-offs. And different trade-offs are the right thing for you at a different time, right? So it's very dependent on the context. We have kind of 4 properties that we think about trading off, right? And they are safety, efficiency, fairness, and feature set. And safety is always first, right? If you are trying to resolve conflicts between these, like, oh, should I make it this way or should I make it that way? It's in that order. Safety is always first. And safety includes security of the platform, integrity of the platform, integrity of the data. Next one. This one is actually really, really important to me. I have very strong opinions about data ethics and data integrity. So you trust us with your data. That is, you give us access to your origin servers. We hold keys for you that verify your identity to the rest of the world. We process your sensitive data. We help you run your business. But all of that data belongs to you. The logs belong to you, the configurations belong to you. We are curators and caretakers of that data, and we should store only what we need to operate the platform, and we should maintain a strong data governance policy. It's very important. This is probably my favorite, though, which is one network. And this is really kind of something that differentiates Fastly from other cloud companies. So we want it to be a situation where you never have to make a choice due to some kind of implementation quirk between, oh, I have to choose between this set of features on this network or that set of features on that network. All features should be available to all customers on one network, no matter where they are. This one is about good citizenship, fix and expand the internet ecosystem. So in order to help make the internet better for everyone, we leverage, fix, expand standards. So we work on standards. Jana, who'll be talking to you later today, was one of the co-editors of the Quick standard. When we build the privacy systems that we'll be talking about again later today, we use open protocols like MASK. It's super, super important to support those so we can continue to have the best possible internet for everyone. This one, again, super important. Customers are creative. Our job is to give you superpowers, right? To enable the most creative systems you can possibly build, the best possible experiences delivered to your customers. So we should only introduce limitations to avoid any kind of harmful effects, right? Like we want to make it as open as possible so that you can do as much as possible. And that's sort of the key to having all of these open APIs and giving you full configurability. The last one, this is more of an internal one, and it is build Fastly with Fastly. And what that means is if we already have a technology for something, let's reuse that, right? Let's not, create something new every time we need to build. And the nice thing about that is, when we're reusing existing Fastly technologies, they've been tested and tried, we can tap into the ecosystem, and all the things that we've built into those existing technologies. Empathy for customers, right? It's a really important one. All right, so that's the theory. And we all know that in theory and practice are the same, and in practice they're different. So how do we put those principles into practice? I will talk about how that works out in the real world. And that brings us to the Super Bowl. Funnily enough, it's only, September, and you're probably not thinking that far ahead unless you work on the Super Bowl, and you will hear about that later today. We've been delivering Super Bowls for a number of years now. And this, what you see in this graph, is the Fastly view of the game. This is what I am looking at on Super Bowl Sunday. And I think this is the best possible view of the game. That may also be because I'm not American and it's completely lost on me, but this is great. What I love about this is you can see what people are doing in real time, right? All those little dips, those are the ad breaks. Sorry if you're an advertiser. And that lump in the middle is the halftime show, because that's where all the people who don't like football also stop using the rest of the internet and come watch the Super Bowl. Every year during Super Bowl, we set a record, pretty much always during the halftime show, for our network. And so we plan for months to make sure this is a really smooth experience for everyone, right? We make sure the network is going to scale to this. And we set a record every year. You can see it in tiny print there, so I put it in much bigger print for those of us that are old, like me. In February, that night, we set a record of 81.9 terabits per second globally. That's pretty big. It's bigger every year. And the Fastly engine, these architectural principles about one network, scale horizontally, no artificial limitations, that is what allows us to keep doing this every year. But wait, there's more. I'm really excited about this. So, for us, every day is Super Bowl Sunday. And you might wonder what I mean by that. This is a graph that shows Fastly traffic since the beginning of 2017. And there's kind of years demarcated on the graph. And if you look at the last section, which is 2023, you can probably pick out where Super Bowl is, because it's February, it's super early in the year. And what you see is that we broke that record a bunch of times. We broke it again last week, actually, by a lot. It just continues. The graph is not quite monotonically increasing, but the trend line is. The thing is that it means for us, we can't afford to treat Super Bowl as special. We just have to keep growing and planning to grow. The ability to scale like this is something that's useful not just once a year, right? It's useful for holidays, for Cyber Monday, for buying tickets to your favorite artist, for downloading like a patch for that video game that we're all super passionate about, right? The release, the first episode of a new limited series, whatever it is, right? Like, we are here to help you with that. And we do a really good job, if I don't mind saying so myself. Anyway, moving on. I'm going to talk a little bit about a system called Autopilot. It's an architecture diagram. It doesn't matter that much. You can take a picture of it if you want. But I'm going to pause for a moment and talk about cultural practices in Australia and Sweden. And you might be wondering about that. In Australia, we have this thing called tall poppy syndrome. I think New Zealanders have it as well. Maybe the British do. Anyone heard of this? Yes, Simon has. Tall poppy syndrome is this phenomenon where you cannot say anything nice about yourself. This is best expressed as, like, you'll see an Australian Olympic swimmer, they have 7 gold medals, and someone says, "Oh, I heard you're a swimmer," and they say, "I swim a bit." Right. So we're very, very bad about talking about what we do and being proud of it, right? This is a problem. We're doers, we're not talkers, we are not good at, being out there blowing our own trumpets. And I recently discovered that there is this thing in Sweden that is called jantelagen. If anyone is Swedish, they're probably laughing at my pronunciation now, but I'm working on it. And what that is the law of Janta. And it's exactly the same thing. If you're Swedish, you're not allowed to say, and I think a lot of the Scandinavian countries as well, you're not allowed to say, "I'm great at a thing." Now, it may have escaped you, especially if you haven't been a customer for very long, if you're not a customer yet, that our founder is Swedish. Archer Bergman is a Swede, and therefore it's been sort of enshrined in our culture from the beginning that we can't say we're good at stuff. So I'm kind of like very uncomfortable telling you we're good at stuff. But Autopilot. So Autopilot is a system that we built, you might be wondering how this relates, to do adaptive real-time traffic management. It is intelligent, it adapts based on real-time information, it is useful for large events. So during this year's Super Bowl, we did 100% of our egress traffic management using the intelligence of Autopilot. It's also really useful when we experience DDoS, right? It helps us route traffic around that and reduce problems for all of you. We have never called this AI. I think if we were at any other company, we would have been calling it AI for the last 3 years. But we haven't, and that's because we're not very good at saying, "We are great." So we're not, but we just built a really nice system that does a lot of math for you very quickly and makes sure that everybody gets the best possible view of the Super Bowl. All right. There is a blog post if you want to read all of the details about exactly how it works, especially if you are very, very passionate about BGP, which I know some of you are. So here's the thing about Autopilot. I'm an engineer and I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not saying go out there and talk to Brett and tell him that you want to buy Autopilot, because you already have, right? If you're using the platform, it is baked in, it's there already. This is to say, I think that Fastly is really different, and that's actually one of the reasons that I'm here. I've seen the hype. I'm old, right? And I've been to a lot of conferences. I've given probably several hundred conference talks. I've sat in a lot more than that. I've sat in a lot of vendor talks when someone's like, "Let me tell you about this thing that we built that will disrupt everything." And because of that, because I've been literally doing that for 30 years, I'm a cynic, right? It's all very yeah, whatever. But I actually get excited about this. And one of the reasons that I came to work at Fastly was because I thought this was exciting. And there aren't very many things that really get me revved up like the potential of this technology. So that's really it. So I thank you for listening to me today. Really appreciate your attention.